Welcome to our first panel of Walker Spring Connect and Monday morning and the first day of March. So I'm excited to be here with all of you to kick off all of those things. My name is Maureen Cathy. I am a career coach in the Walker College of Business Career Services office, and I'm going to be the moderator for our panel today, Finding Your Way as a New College Grad. So just a couple of quick notes before we get started. We are recording this panel call so that we can share that with others, and you can go back afterwards and look at hear the great advice again that our panelists give us. So we are recording. We do ask that everyone stay muted while you're not speaking, if you can, just so that reduces the background noise and we can hear our panelists. And we are going to, this is a panel discussion. We want you all to get your questions answered. So I do have a few prompts and questions that I'm going to kind of get us started with, but we would love to have you ask questions of the panelists that have joined us. So in addition to myself, I'm joined by Kaylee Combs. She's also a co-pilot for this session. So in the chat, if you have a question that you want to ask, we'd really like you to ask that. And if you're willing to get off mic and ask it. So if you have a question that you are thinking of, you can just type into the chat, either to everyone or to Kaylee or myself, that you have a question to ask. And then as we get to that moment, we will ask you to unmute and ask that question. If you would prefer not to do that, you can always type that question into the chat and we will ask that for you. Wonderful. And then also just to let you know, at the very end of the session today, we are going to be doing a little bit of a raffle. So if you have joined us, your name is being entered into that raffle. And at the end, we will spin the wheel and draw a name. And the Business Career Services Office has a little gift for you, a little raffle item that you will then be sent. So you must be present at the end to win that. So that's just a little incentive to keep with us on this call. Well, let's get started. I want to thank again our panelists that are joining us. We have Anthony Brumfield from Hampton Inn & Suites, Nita Lipan from Old Edwards Hospitality, Anna Malone from Lowe's Companies, and Logan Welling from Crane ChemPharma and Energy. And I want them to be able to introduce themselves and give you just a little bit of knowledge about their organization. So I'm just going to kind of call you out as I see you here on my screen. So Nita, if you don't mind kicking us off with introductions.
Good morning, welcome. My name is Nita Lipan and I work for Old Edwards Inn. We are a Relais Chateau property and we kind of encompass a little bit of everything from spa services to our historic inn stays. We have a golf club and we've opened up a new residence in Glen Cove. And I'm just super excited. This is a new role for me. I was a teacher for 16 years. So I've gotten to be a restaurant manager and then move into HR to kind of use my skills as a teacher.
Wonderful, thank you. All right, I'm going to move next to Anthony, please.
Hello, I'm Anthony Brumfield. Thank y'all for having me on here. Really looking forward to hearing the different conversations and perspectives as well. I always learn when I'm on calls like this. I am the Assistant General Manager, Director of Sales, and Revenue Manager for the Hampton Inn & Suites. Wear a lot of hats here, but we are a hotel in Boone, North Carolina, where we've won plenty of awards, but at the end of it, we are a place that we believe in a culture of excellence, a culture of care, and a culture of teamwork. So yeah.
Thank you. If we can move now to Anna.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. By the way, I'm very excited to be participating in this. But my name is Anna Malone. I just graduated App State this past May, and I'm currently working for Lowe's, the hardware company. So a lot of you are probably pretty familiar with that. And I'm currently in their finance and accounting rotational program. So it's called FAR. It's a 2-year program and you switch to 4 different rotations throughout the 2 years. And I just finished up my first rotation in project forecasting, which was wonderful, and just started my second rotation in merchandising finance. So very excited for that.
Wonderful, we're excited to have you as well. And then Logan.
Good morning, everybody. My name's Logan. I work in HR here for Crane ChemPharma and Energy. We're a manufacturing facility that manufactures industrial piping systems or fluid handling products, mostly servicing the chemical, pharmaceutical, and oil and gas industry. I'm in charge of recruiting for our facility, so I am excited to get into the conversation today. Thanks for having me.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again for all of our panelists for joining us. I'm going to kick us off with a question, and I will just, it's a little hard sometimes on Zoom when we have these panels, but I will call on a person to maybe get us started with the question. And then if our other panelists have some additional things that they would like to add, we can just sort of try and help each other out by unmuting and jumping in there for those answers. Of course, you don't all have to answer every question that we throw out there for you all, but we'd love to get your perspective. So the first thing that we are interested in is what is something that immediately comes to mind that you wish you had known or understood about navigating life after college when you first graduated? And I am going to start things off with Anthony.
I think it's a popular meme or a TikTok that adulting is overrated. I think that's what I wish I would have known originally, before college and even after college, right? But what I wish I understood is that to do your very best is all that you can do, and not try to. I think a lot of times when we want to go into a job, and sometimes we get burnt out by trying to do way more than what we need to and not really take care of ourselves. And so I really want to encourage everybody to want to take care of yourself first. And so you might not have your dream job. I thought I was going to work for my dream school and all this stuff when I first came out, and that didn't happen. And so you may not have your dream job, but you can learn a lot from where you're at. And make sure that you're taking care of yourself then and not waiting until you reach a certain part of your career to start taking care of yourself, because by then it might be too late to have that balance.
Wonderful. Yeah, balance is something we'll probably hear more of in our answers. Is there someone else on the panel that would like to add and jump in there? All right, Anna?
Yeah. I just wanted to add a little bit. I think this is going to sound kind of funny, but when I first graduated and I thought that we were going to go into the office, I was thinking like, oh my goodness, like, am I going to have to bring my binders, my notes with me? Are they expecting me to know everything on day one? And I think that's what I wish I had understood, is that when you go into a role for the first time, especially your first role out of college, no one is expecting you to know everything about the role and how to do it. Or else, I mean, why are you in the role to begin with? Because the whole point is to grow and to learn and be intellectually curious and learn about all of these different things. So I think that was probably the biggest eye opener for me, is when I went into the role, especially at Lowe's. They took a lot of time to train me, paired me up with different mentors to ask different questions. And even in my first rotation, the 6 months, I still had so much more to learn, even after being there for 6 months. So that's what I would say would be the biggest thing.
Any other additions from our panel on what you wish you had known or understood? Nita?
Yeah, I'd love to add also taking that unconventional opportunity. Kind of when you graduate, you have this set mind of, I have my degree in this area and that's where I'm going. And sometimes life kind of leads you in other directions, and then you don't want to be left kind of unflexible. Sometimes I know when I started in teaching, I wanted to be a classroom teacher right from the get-go, get in that classroom, but I entered the school system as a teacher's assistant. And then honestly, it kind of helped me wet my toes to be comfortable in my classroom. So if there is a field that you are just passionate about, don't just say, oh, I didn't get the position I wanted. Find another way to get in, because learning those lower line level steps will actually make you a better person for that position later, or even maybe a different promotion that you weren't expecting. So it leads you in a different path, but it still ends up being that same goal in that area that you're wanting to focus in.
Okay, perfect. I'll go ahead and get rid of that chat. You want to jump in there, Logan?
Sure, I can do that. I'm going to piggyback off of a little bit what Nita said. I was thinking just be open-minded about new opportunities. Don't be so focused on one particular thing. Whether a new opportunity presents itself close to home or halfway across the country, be open-minded to that, because I think it's put yourself in a new environment, new surroundings, and it's one of the better ways to grow, one, in your career, and secondly, as a person. So be open-minded.
Thank you all. Well, I heard a little bit about balance. And so I'm going to throw out a question here about what suggestions do you have for those that are going to be just entering a new college grad and entering the workforce in terms of navigating work-life balance as a new professional? Is there someone who wants to start us off? You're going to make me put someone on the spot.
I'll go.
Anna, you want, oh, Nita, you ready? Okay.
I'm ready. Yeah. One of the biggest things I always love to suggest is, depending on how your organization system is, if you are a person who likes to block their time, keep that going. Just because you're not in school anymore and not kind of designated by a school schedule, if you created a habit that is successful for you, continue to do that. I also say sprinkle in you time, with whether that means planning for a vacation. Even though you're starting a new position, maybe they're giving you 10 days of vacation, or they're allotting certain times for you. Plan for that, something exciting, so that while you're working, it's an achievement, a goal, like, oh, this is where I'm going. I'm going to take a vacation, take a break, because you do need to balance that time between family and self and your job. Your job, in some cases, might be your whole life, but you have to remember you have to take care of you. If you don't fill your own cup, you can't help others. And so I love to do time blocking, where I literally specifically say, from this time, whether it's from 12 to 1, I'm going to read for 10 minutes. I'm going to have my lunch. Phone is off, because that's me time, so that when I come back, I'm refreshed and I can finish the day. But that can look different for everybody else. So if you're not a time blocker, maybe you're more of a do everything Monday through Friday, and Saturday and Sunday you're free. Make sure you build in that time with no devices, because we're so used, especially now with COVID, being on a device. You do need to kind of be away from electronics just for a little bit, whether it's 10, 15, 20 minutes. It makes a true difference in what you can accomplish. You can do a lot in 20 minutes, whether it's laundry, folding, cleaning the house, or just sitting down and reading your favorite book. But it just, allowing that time for you makes you feel that you have your social life, you have your you time, and it's not just all about that work emphasis, which can be really hard, because when you graduate, you're so excited, but you will burn out very quickly if you don't allot that time for yourself.
So true, especially now. Is there anyone else on the panel that wants to jump in with that one?
I want to add, what you said, Nita, was beautiful. Like, especially because there was a key thing that she said. She said family, self, and work. And a lot of times we lump self and family together, and not really take care of ourselves. So we'll look at, I need to go see my parents, or I need to see my siblings, and I want to go spend time with them. And that's not really time for yourself. And so you have to make sure that you're putting time, alone time, and be okay with that alone time with yourself, so that you're being refreshed in that way. Because sometimes being with family can be draining as well. And so you want to make sure that you actually are getting time with yourself as well, not just with, oh, I had time with my family, so I'm refreshed, but you might just be as drained as you was when you were at work.
Thank you. Any other thoughts on that work-life balance? It's so hard for all of us to figure out. We're all working on that, I think. But Logan?
Yeah, I'll say something. Those are great strategies from Nita and Anthony, but all I'm going to say is sit down and think about something that you love to do, whether that is reading a book, playing a musical instrument, exercising, whatever it is, and just make sure you carve out time every single day to do that thing. Working from home in this new environment, it's really easy to, when you're working from home all day, to work through the evening as well, just because you really never leave work. Make sure you carve out that time to do something you love every single day, so that you are refreshed and you do feel like you do have some time to yourself and things that you're passionate about.
Thank you. Any other last thoughts on balance that anyone wants to share? Anna?
I would just say be patient with yourself, because I'm almost coming up on a year of being out of school, and I still don't have it all down and pat with blocking out time and schedules and stuff. So just be patient with yourself. But something that I've learned, and I know not everybody can do this, but I'm really adamant about when I finish the workday, I'm done with the workday. So I will silence the notifications on my phone. Sometimes I'll even remove the email during the weekend, remove it from my phone, because I am one of those that if I get an email at 7 o'clock at night, I will hop back onto the computer, or if I'm out, I'll try and rush home to make sure that I can get it done. But a lot of that stuff you can do the next day. A lot of the asks and emails that people send you. So just make sure to draw a line, and there has to be some level of boundaries there if possible.
Great advice from everyone on those ideas of work-life balance. Before I jump into another question, we had a clarification question in the chat box, and I believe it was Nita that mentioned this, but I could be wrong. We had Amanda asked if you could elaborate on what lower line steps are. I think that was you, Nita, that mentioned that.
Yeah, most definitely. So what I meant by that is, let's say there's a company you truly love and the position you were wanting is maybe in finance or in accounting, but at the time you did not have enough experience or just weren't able to get in. Sometimes if there's a company that's offering a different position, that you can at least get to know the company, their service standards, their points of success and what they'd like to see in a team member. You can kind of mold yourself by just learning, and kind of it's kind of the idea of being back in school. So you're in kind of kindergarten and you're learning the company and learning the ins and outs and, where is everything located? Who are people I need to get to know? Kind of build a network within the company. And then as soon as those internal positions start popping up, they may be like, oh, I saw, Brianna, and she was working in this other department. And now I really think she'd be a great fit for this department. So it'll allow you to kind of flow through the system within that company. So even if it's an hourly position and it's not something you were looking forward to, the idea of that prospect, the silver lining of I'm still working in the company I want to work in, just maybe not in the area yet. And that's the big word, is the yet word. It's not now, it's just not yet. It might be in a week, it might be in 2 weeks, it may be in a year. If they offer a program, maybe it's starting in that program and at the end of the program being offered that potential position you were hoping to have sooner. So kind of just those baby steps I've learned just throughout my career, being a teacher, now being in HR, all of the background jobs I've had have all added to where I am today. If I didn't work in the restaurant at the theme parks, I wouldn't have become a restaurant manager at Old Edwards. And then now my training background during COVID allowed us to keep our international students who were required to go back, because if we couldn't offer their training and internship, they would have to go back. Well, I developed our whole online training university. So all of our interns got to stay in state and continue to work and learn through our company. And once we reopened, they were able to get that hands-on experience. But that was my teaching background, and then allowing me to now step into HR and doing talent acquisitions and doing training. So everything builds on every other layer. So it's kind of building a house. And that's what I mean about those line level steps. It's just building your foundation, whether it's through networking, getting into that business, and then just meeting people and making sure that you allot that time for you as well.
Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. And that kind of rolls into, so Nita was mentioning, keeping an open mind, also networking, things that you can maybe be thinking about doing now. So I'm curious from our panel if you have other suggestions and thoughts for those on the call who may be graduating in May and just have a few months left, or maybe some that are on the call today that have a little bit longer time before they're jumping in out of graduation and into their positions. What can they be doing now to prepare for postgraduate life? Anyone want to jump in on that one?
I'll start. I would say don't be afraid to make mistakes. You're not going to be able to know everything. I think we kind of said this a little bit earlier. I think Anna said it. Employers are not expecting you to know everything. And most of the time, especially if you're working for a great company, they want you to ask the questions. And we want you to try new things. And so don't be afraid to make a mistake, because once you are afraid to make a mistake, then you keep yourself in a box and you don't really try to do more. And what we want is for you to be okay with making a mistake, because if you make a mistake, you can learn from it, and then the company can grow together with it. So don't be afraid to make a mistake in whatever you're doing.
Other preparation tips for what our students can be doing now?
I'll just jump in and say just a couple things. And I wrote a few notes. I just said, yeah. So within the first month of me joining Lowe's, I mean, you have to kind of solidify your benefits package and choose like the health insurance plan that you're going to use, your 401k contribution, all of that good stuff. So I remember panicking within the first 30 days because I was like, I don't understand this. Like, what do I, neither of my parents have ever had a corporate job either, or had to deal with benefits packages like that. So they weren't much help. But I really think that there's an employee benefits class at App. If I had known better, I really wish I would have taken that class. And I really wish I would have sat in on some of the salary negotiation workshops. I think I've seen those workshops kind of floating around before. I never took the time to sit in on one, but I definitely wish that I had. So those are probably the two biggest things.
Absolutely. Great advice coming from someone who more recently has been in your shoes. And yes, we do have some of those salary negotiation workshops through Business Career Services. They're also available. A lot of those workshops, like salary negotiations, are recorded. And so you can go to the Business Career Services YouTube channel and check those out as well. So great idea and advice for that. Other thoughts from our panelists on things that people could be doing right now to prepare for that life after graduation?
I definitely would say networking is a big tool. If you've been in a sorority, if you've been in a group, in a club, use your resources as ways of connections into other businesses. Currently at Old Edwards, I have multiple students who interned with us, who have then gone back, graduated, and they've used their internships, they've used their friends who are working within the company to kind of get a foot in. And, even if you don't get that position, just being able to be in someone's mind, people will always remember how you make them feel and not necessarily what you say. So if you make them feel joyful, or that you are definitely flexible and wanting to be a part of that culture, they will look back on those resumes that come in through those companies as well. And it's really worked, especially in these small towns. That connection and that networking has really helped a lot of students kind of get that start off into their first positions.
Thank you. Any other thoughts on that one?
I'll just say one thing. I'm going to try kind of flip the question a little bit, and I'm going to say not to worry about post-grad life too much, because these are the last few months of probably one of the better times in life. So just enjoy the last couple months. Don't stress too much about what comes after graduation, because I promise you it'll be okay. So just enjoy these last couple months, and I know you're going to do fine.
Absolutely. Good advice to have right now. So Anna, I know, mentioned benefits and kind of navigating all that and figuring that out, which brought to mind as well budgets. And I'm curious if you all have any great tips or advice, or how you navigated kind of figuring out a first-time budget or a post-college life budget for yourself, or tips that you can give us. Anyone willing to jump in and talk about that money piece? Or maybe you didn't do a budget, and what were the ramifications of that? Or other tips related to money and spending. I think some of us get out and have that first few paychecks coming in and think about all the things we can purchase with that. Any advice there related to how just to navigate thinking about some of those purchases after college?
So for me, budgeting is something I'm still currently working on. It's an ever evolving thing. I will tell you when I first graduated, I definitely didn't do well with my budgeting because, I lived on campus all 4 years, got refund checks, and I was highly involved, so I didn't really have to work. So my refund checks helped pay for things. And so then when I graduated, I was like, wait, what bills are these again? So I would definitely say that find a budget that will work for you. There's going to be a lot of suggestions. There's going to be a lot of things out there like Dave Ramsey and all this stuff of like, what are the best ways to budget? And I think Dave Ramsey has a great plan. But if that's not what works for you, then that's okay. Find something that works for you, like whatever speaks to the way you learn, the way you spend, the way you do things, and then use that to the best of your advantage. You'll probably have to cut back on some of the stuff that you did. Like there's things that I bought in college that I look at now, years after graduating college, like, how did I afford that? Because I don't want to purchase it now. I look at it, I bought that in college? Oh no. So yeah, just find something that works best for you is the best advice that I can give with budgeting. I've tried almost every type of budget there is out there. And I'm finally settling in with pulling pieces together that works best for me and my household.
I definitely agree with Anthony. Make sure you find something that works for you. You don't want to feel that you're so, tight in your funds that you don't feel like you're having a good time. Kind of sometimes like I base my budget on what I love. I do have 2 children, and so I like to invest in their curricular. So I make sure that I spend a little bit of money on, gymnastics and dance and soccer, because that's what I enjoy for them. But for myself, I love to vacation and I love to travel. So I made myself my own little travel piggy bank per se. And one of the things that's worked for me in the past is you get a paycheck and then it's supposed to last you, whether you get paid monthly or every 2 weeks. I pay my bills and do everything. And then at the end of those 2 weeks, if there's anything left over, I take that amount and just put it into a savings. And then by that time, you have your other paycheck. So it's not necessarily like every week, save $25 or $50. It's, I did really good these 2 weeks. I only spent so much money and I have this much left over. It all goes into my travel fund. And, at the end of the year, if it's a nice trip, then it's a nice trip. And if it's not a nice trip, it was still money that I saved and put aside for a rainy day. And maybe it's a staycation. But I was kind of flexible in that, because sometimes when you put yourself in a regimented, how much you have to put every week, you start to have anxiety because, oh my gosh, I overspent. Now I don't have that $25 or $50 a week to put away. And you shouldn't live your life in that much anxiety. Life already gives you that. So kind of make it as easy for yourself and be as flexible and open-minded about how you want to put your money away.
I would also say take advantage and do some research on what are they called? I use them on my phone, like Mint and Acorn are great resources to have. And I was, within the first 6 months trying to build out like my emergency savings fund. And I was like, well, I'm just going to take me so long to save this. And they actually break out like pie charts of like you're spending X, Y, and Z on Starbucks every month. If you cut down to, 2 coffees, 1 coffee out a week, you could be saving an extra, $200 a month. So those are really, really useful tools that you should definitely download if you can to help with the budgeting process.
Definitely some great tools out there. And those are a few of them. Other thoughts on budgeting? Or maybe even jumping off of that, was when you graduated and started into a role, were there any surprises financially or things that you just weren't aware of needing to know? I know, Anna, you mentioned a little bit about trying to navigate some of those benefits, things related to maybe to insurance or the benefits package that you're presented when you start into a role? Any surprises there, and then tips that you can give those that are going to be venturing in those footsteps as well?
I'll just quickly say, I still don't fully understand it all, but a lot of companies have resources. I know at Lowe's, there's literally a phone number and people on the end of like the phone call that can actually help you navigate all of this. So you're not completely alone, and make sure to ask and see if there is something like that available, because it can get pretty complicated. And then you're also navigating a whole new website that you've never been really familiar with. So understanding where the information is, not only what it is, but where it is also really important.
Using your resources and the help that's out there, really important to do. Nita?
I know one of the things, and it may sound kind of silly, but your wardrobe. When you're in college, you don't have to worry about necessarily what you wear. And if you wake up at 6 a.m. for a 7 a.m. class, if you're in your yoga pants, you're great. But now you have to actually think about a budget for your wardrobe. Especially if you're in a corporate position, do you have to wear a suit every day? Do you have to have nice blouses, nice shoes? Comfortable shoes are always a big one as well. But those are like added expenses that you don't typically think about when you're in college, because if you have a meal plan, if you're in the dorms and you do have scholarships, then things are kind of already taken care of for you. But then when you go out into the corporate world or the working world, if your business doesn't offer uniforms, then what do you have to wear to dress appropriately? Or what do you need? Lunches can get expensive. Does the company offer a meal program? Do you have to pay for it out of pocket? And it may not seem like much, but $5, $10 every day adds up to $100 in a week. And then that's $400 in a month. So it's those hidden expenses that you just don't realize when you're in college that pop up when you're no longer in school. So that's something to kind of think about once you kind of step out into outside of university life, is those hidden costs that you just didn't realize were there.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Just thinking about a whole new wardrobe. And one of the things that I've learned even more recently, that there are some employers that actually offer you a budget to buy clothes for you. So it might be in a question of, in terms of benefits, is there something for uniforms or clothes that you already have budgeted for us to be able to use? Also, one of the things that I didn't know, graduated from college, and I don't know, y'all may know it, but buying clothes for work is a tax write-off. And so just knowing that early on, if you have somebody, maybe you have a family CPA, maybe not, maybe you know somebody that can help you with your taxes, but that is something that is good to know about when you're having to purchase these things, your meals that are dealing with work related, your clothes and stuff like that. I wish I would have known that early on as well, because especially if you're making entry level pay and you're still having to pay for those things to write off on your taxes can really help you out in the long run.
Absolutely. We had a comment in the chat from Amanda who said that secondhand stores are great for finding professional clothes, much cheaper than retail, and finding some great finds in some of those thrift stores. Thinking about it now can help you, because you might be able to start that process looking. You can also look for sales, look for coupons and things that might help, rather than at the last minute knowing that you need something for the next day. Also in Boone, where if you are here right now physically, there's some great opportunities, but it also can be challenging at times to find some of those professional clothing items. So making plans for that in advance of when you actually have to start the position are good things to think about. Other thoughts on kind of some of those surprises or hidden expenses, things that our students might want to be thinking about? Logan?
Yeah, I'll say to piggyback off them, your company resources, if you're moving away, there's a lot of companies that offer relocation or sign-on bonuses. Make sure you ask about that, because I know mine helped me buy my first washer and dryer, which you don't think about too often when you're in college, but they are kind of expensive, or can be, so that can help. So just ask about that extra money on the side. If a company offers that, it can be a big help to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Checking into those resources, great things to do. Don't be afraid to ask. It doesn't hurt to ask and try and navigate what are the opportunities that are out there for you. So we've had a question in the chat that relates a little bit to preparation right now before going before graduating. And this one is a little bit specific to, we have John Cathcart is a CIS student, and it was asking if there are technical certifications that your companies look for that you can do on school or that you're aware of that would be good for them to be working on, or other certifications or kind of add-ons to their academic program that you might suggest would be a good idea to be doing before they graduate. We might not have anyone that's had that experience or has something specific with their company. Oh, Logan?
So we don't look for anything specific, depending on what role you're going into, but I will say a certification never hurt anything. It's definitely not going to hinder you in any way. So if you have the time and you're willing to, give up your personal time to get that certification, I promise you it can do nothing but help you in the long run.
Especially right now with some of you doing a lot of classwork remotely, and maybe having some time where you can do some of the remote certifications that are available online. That's an opportunity to think about, because yeah, it can only probably be a bonus for you. Well, I'd like to open up the floor for our students to ask some questions. Again, love for you to be able to unmute and ask that question yourself, but we also don't want to jump in on top of each other. So you could either try and wave your hand in the air here and myself or Kaylee can see something. I think I just saw Jacob that has a question. So if you want to jump in.
So let's say you're graduating in May. When will be the best time to start applying and looking for jobs?
I would say if you're graduating in May, in January, you should be hitting those companies and letting them know that you're coming up in May. I'm doing recruiting right now, and a lot of my seniors had contacted me at the end of January so that I can actually give them to our department directors and let them know these are graduating seniors who are looking for a full-time position. So getting your foot in the door really early. So as soon as those positions open up, at our company, we offer an internship. So it's kind of a 3-month program after our seniors have graduated to kind of get a feel for our company, know our customer service, our points of service. And then at the end of those 3 months, they have the potential of being offered a full-time position within our company. And during that time, we'll offer housing so that you can kind of learn a little bit and not worry about where you're living. But at the end of those 3 months, if you are offered a full-time position, then it'll be kind of on you to be able to find a location to stay. Now we will assist in HR finding, rentals or apartments for you to be able to stay in as well. But all of those things kind of happen through that process. They'll do interviews, and it gives you enough time that by May, you'll already know if you have that position or that internship available for you.
Thank you.
Are there any other thoughts on maybe how your organizations work in terms of timing for application process, or when those things need to be happening?
I would say finance, I think, is a little bit different. It's definitely much earlier than you would expect. So when I graduated in May, I started applying for companies, I think at the tail end of the summer, almost a full year before. A lot of those big companies, they definitely close their applications by the end of October, I would say. But that doesn't mean that you have to wait until October to put them in. Take advantage of the fact that you have the summer open and all that extra time when you're not dealing with school at the same time to get those applications in if they're already accepting them. So I think finance is a little bit earlier. I know for the FAR program at Lowe's, our applications were due, I think, by November 1st. So almost a whole semester before you graduate.
Thank you.
Other student questions that we have for our panelists? Brianna?
Hi, yes, my name is Brianna. I'm a junior finance and banking major, and I was just wondering In your first week in your position, what was the most overwhelming thing that you encountered?
For
And
me,
repress those memories. I was sorry, Anthony, go ahead.
for me, my very first position was actually in higher ed, and I was over residence halls. And my first week, I was immediately put in charge of training, putting together the training for all of the RAs that were coming in 2 weeks. So yeah, so I had to put together all that training and meet with campus partners that I've never met before. And so it's like, here you go, it's your baby, you can do it. So yeah, that was pretty overwhelming.
Thank you.
I was a school teacher, and I remember the first day my teacher didn't show up as a teacher's assistant. I had her always there. So my first week, I actually was told I needed to teach a class and I didn't have any lesson plans. And the teacher was out sick for that week. So I was kind of thrown into the fire immediately with trying to create a lesson plan right off the top of my head. And, you know, look at these beautiful little sixth graders in front of me who are expecting their math and science teacher to teach them. So we ended up just kind of doing experiments and kind of blowing things up in the classroom that first week, because that's what I enjoyed. And I figured if you're in sixth grade, you're going to love just kind of pouring things and letting them bubble. And so that was my first week. But I just remember just that intense anxiety of like, I have no idea what I'm supposed to do with 25 students in front of me because I had no lessons to go by.
Oh man, well, mine is not as dramatic as Nita's and Anthony's, but just thinking back, the biggest thing that popped into my head just now was meetings. I didn't realize how many meetings you have in a day, and within the first week thinking, how does anybody get anything done? I mean, I have, 8, 9, 10 meetings in one day. So what I've done is I've allocated like fake meetings, but times for myself to be able to block out, an hour in the morning, an hour in the middle of the day, an hour in the afternoon, just to have like 3-ish solid hours to be able to do work. And then most of the meetings are just planned around that. But I remember I was like, how does anybody get anything done? There's so many meetings throughout the day.
Thank you.
Yeah, I will say the hardest part for me was realizing how bad I was at time management. So coming into your new role, you kind of have to get a strategy on how you want to handle your new workload, because in school, you got class from this time to this time. You're basically told when and where to be. It's not going to be like that really at work. You got to manage your workload on your own. So I had to learn really quickly on how to organize myself and manage my time the most efficiently. So that was my hardest obstacle to get over, I'll say.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Yes, I see Carter has a question.
Hi, yeah, I was just wondering if any of you had any advice for so I'm a CIS major, and I was wondering if you had any advice for applying to positions that don't necessarily go along with my degree, whether it's certifications or that we were talking about before, or like just showing enthusiasm to learn. I was just wondering if you guys had any advice on that.
So I'll actually jump in and just say a few words of what I did. I didn't have an internship. I wasn't able to acquire one. So when I was applying to all these big companies, I was like, how can I tailor the experience that I do have in, waitressing? I was working at J. Crew as a sales associate to kind of show maybe some of the skills that they are looking for that you would have gained in an internship. So looking at all of the descriptor words for the job that you're trying to apply for and trying to make sure that those words are in your experience, whether they're relevant or not. So for waitressing, I mentioned that, I'm pretty good like under pressure, good with stress, able to be very detail oriented when it came to, being slammed and having all of these tables and making sure that everybody's getting what they want, and great customer service, being able to talk to people, teamwork, all those relevant skills that apply to finance or really any job, but they're specifically looking for. And it wasn't finance related experience, but I was able to put in those descriptor words into the experience that I did have. And that was definitely useful for when companies kind of, they use like software that like brings resumes up to the top, like a certain percentage. And those are the descriptor words that will really help your resume shine.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can definitely use your career coach for some guidance and help on that as well, in terms of getting that resume, to highlight those soft skills. And I know we have some other people on the panel here as well who may have gone some different paths than what their major is. So I don't know if anybody else has any other advice to give, Carter.
Definitely. I would say never limit yourself by what your degree is. I will let you know my degree is in law and psychology with a minor in history. And then I ended up being a math and science teacher. I also worked at, I lived in Orlando at the time, so I worked at Disney and at Universal as a part-time seasonal job. So I literally have a hodgepodge of, I've pretty much done everything. But I used all of those skills to actually be able to land my HR position. Being in the restaurant, it is high pressure, knowing how to be organized and detail oriented, but also having that teacher background for training purposes within our HR department. So definitely everything you've done builds into whatever position you want to go for. And as Anna was saying with those descriptor words, that is what we're looking for. At least when I'm recruiting, I know I'm looking more for belonging. And are we going to be able to give you the social needs that you need to work here and support you in your career and be able to mold you into what you want to become and follow those goals? And so if we kind of have an idea of where you're at, I might see, like Anna, she worked as a server. She might be a great fit at our club, which is a golf course, but we also have a restaurant and we have retail shops and we also have a finance department. Maybe she can get in and know the managers there and then get into that role she really wants. So it's definitely just take those opportunities, take a chance, and you may end up loving something that you didn't know you loved.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Other questions from our students for our panelists while we have them here? Not seeing a show of hands right now. So, and I know we're coming up at the end of our time, but I just want to give our panelists a chance to maybe give any final piece of advice, words of wisdom that you want to share for our students as they're finding their way as a new college grad. Anyone want to jump in there on that from our panel?
Biggest one I'll say is be you. Don't try to fit in. Just be you, because we fall in love with you. And if you try to fit a mold that you think we're looking for, sometimes what ends up happening is it'll backfire because you'll present yourself in one way and then you'll get comfortable and you let the real you come out and they're like, whoa, what happened? So please know that you are enough and you're amazing and you're wonderful, and to never hide that, because what we want to hire is the real you. We don't want what you think you should be. We want you to be you. So that's my biggest advice.
Thanks. Any other panelists have words of wisdom to share?
I would say know your worth as well. On top of you, know your worth. When you're interviewing for these jobs, not only are you interviewing, are they interviewing you, but you are interviewing them. And if you don't feel that that's a place that you need to be, don't be there. It's okay. There's going to be a place that's going to be there for you. I know the pressure is going to be on to find a job and get the job, and that might be the one that you want to take because it's the one that's offering you the position. But if you know that you're not going to be comfortable there and you're not going to succeed there, then I would recommend to know your worth and know not to take the job or leave the job if you are already employed. I have a friend who he just recently, he left one job started another job that he thought was going to be this dream job. He thought it was going to be everything he wanted. Within a month of working there, he saw that it wasn't the job that they told him it was. So he had to make the decision to switch to another new job. And then when he got that new job, he found within a week that they lied again in what they told him that he was going to be. He thought he was going to be impacting kids. They were making him be a salesman. And so he had to switch jobs again. And that's kind of hard to hear. Like, you know, it may sound like he's sorry. My lights keep cutting off. It's automatic lights. It may sound like he's job hopping, but he understands his worth and what he wants to do on a day-to-day basis. And he can explain that when he's interviewing for other jobs. So just know your worth and know that what you want to do, and don't feel like you have to settle for just any job.
Thank you. Well, I want to thank all of our panelists so much for sharing your time with us this morning. Nita, Anthony, Logan, Anna, we so appreciate your time and your thoughts. And if you are interested in speaking with them, I'm sure if our panelists want to put their contact information in the chat, you can do that now, and students can grab that if you're willing to do that, if they have further questions that they want to ask you. And then I'm going to ask Kaylee to, I think, share her screen and do our raffle for us.
All right, I'm about to share it right now. Okay, can you guys see this okay? Okay. All right, so I'm going to spin it now. Let's see. All right, so Zach Reagan.
Hey.
And
Wonderful.
Are we spinning it just one time?
Today's just one time. We've got a raffle item from Business Career Services. So Zach, if you want to maybe hang on or put into the chat here a little bit of information, we've got your name, so I think we'll work out getting that to you. We appreciate all of you for coming and attending this morning. We have a full week for Business Spring Connect. So there are additional workshops and panels we hope you join. We have our mock interviews in the middle of the week. And then on Friday, we really want to see all of you to come to our Career Connections networking event, get a chance to interact with these wonderful panelists again, or others from other organizations as well. So thank you all. Again, panelists, thank you so much for joining us. And we want to appreciate you and say thank you everyone for being here. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.
Thank you so much.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Miss Kathy had a question. So what further information do you need from me for this?
Yeah, let me, actually, Jackie's on the call here. Let me see, Jackie, what do we need from Zach?
Zach, I think just a good contact information for you. So email address or phone number, either one would be great.
Yes, ma'am. I'll send it in the chat.
Okay. You can send it to me privately if you'd like.
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. Thank you. And are you physically in Boone right now?
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. That's great. All right. I'll coordinate with you on picking up that raffle item.
Okay. Thank you so much. I'm going to send my email.